building sometimes. On occasion, we'd get lucky and spot a woman coming out in a bikini or even topless to bathe in the sun. We'd chuckle, but back then, our 12-year-old bodies did not respond the way 12-year-old boys would nowadays. It was a different time, and we were just silly boys caught up in a grand adventure. We knew right from wrong, but told ourselves this was okay because it was war. A kind of war. Our private war. One late afternoon, I was at the fort alone, spying. I had to be back for dinner soon, and on that day I was supposed to be at Roddy's apartment, so I had to get back before the call to dinner. Couldn't take a chance Micheline, or worse, my mother, would call the Stankies. Just as I was gathering my stuff and about to leave, I heard rustling coming from the area of the road near the cinder block wall. I peeked through the opening but couldn't make them out. They were too close to the part of the wall that led down the road. Sounded like two men talking. They stopped at the bottom of the hill, to my left and only a couple of feet from the fort. They became a little clearer as I peeked through a narrow separation of the vines, but only from their chests down. One of the men had his back toward me, the other facing him. The man with his back toward me was dressed in dirty white baggy pants and a long-sleeved white shirt. The other wore clean khakis. I couldn't see anything else. The man in the khakis had an aggressive tone. He spoke in the broken Arabic of an American or Brit. His hands were of a light complexion, not like the man with his back toward me. The back of the other man's right hand was darker. His Arabic was fluent, like he was born to the language. The man with his back toward me repeated "la, la" several times, which I understood to mean no. He sounded defensive. Out of nowhere, the man who was facing me leaned into the other with force. I noticed his right hand strike the man in the chest. Sounded like a hard punch. The sound the other man made was one I'll never forget. Like something more than getting the wind knocked out of you after a sucker punch. More like something confined for years, finally escaping. He lost his feet from under him and fell, his face inches from my position. He had a thick black beard and square-rimmed glasses. I recognized him. His glassy eyes open wide. Does he see me? He gurgled several words and released a breath like a long sigh. Blood from the corner of his mouth bubbled out and quietly burst to something like a teardrop that streamed down to get caught up in his beard. Part 1. 1. The murder of the Middle Eastern man was the first homicide I ever witnessed. I still consider him my first body because you never forget the first one. There would be plenty more to come in my future, but nothing like that time in 1973 in Beirut, Lebanon, and watching it happen. It was fall of 1971 when Dad requested the post in Beirut. We were settled in Arlington, Virginia, having spent 4 years in Mexico City. I was certain, even at that young age, that his decision to go back overseas was so that he could distance our family from the city where my sister Danny had died over 6 months ago. Unlike my totally transparent mother, the signs of something like grief or depression in Dad were never made obvious. Yes, it was difficult to see my mother go through that. I believe the move was more for her benefit. Tommy was 3 years younger than me. He felt great sadness but got over it. I did too, but not as fast as him. My mother kept herself in her bedroom, drinking vodka, smoking cigarettes, and watching the portable television, sometimes all day and night. At that point, totally incapable of looking after me and Tommy, Dad took leave before he had to go. He was a Foreign Service officer with the State Department. Taking leave seemed to settle things, enough so that he felt comfortable with the decision. Mother, Tommy, my bull mastiff Buster, and I were moved to a hotel in D.C. when Dad left for Beirut in the spring of 1972. All the furniture and our belongings were packed by movers and shipped. Everything I owned, aside from what I had in my suitcase, which wasn't